Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. It is now clear that for many of our elected leaders, it's not even worth having a country if that country comes with real borders. The federal government, you may have heard, is on the brink of shutting down tomorrow if Congress can't come to an agreement on funding it. The main stumbling block remains DACA, and of course President Obama's program that gives work permits to illegal immigrants who came here as minors. Almost all Democrats and many Republicans are pushing for an amnesty for DACA recipients, as well as for millions of other illegal immigrants. There's a striking fanaticism to their position. Illegal immigrants must be kept in this country at all costs, no matter what. For Democrats, it's understandable because the calculus is simple. Having abandoned the concerns of the middle class here, they need millions of new voters, and they need them fast. Otherwise, their party risks becoming a permanent minority. Replacing ungrateful citizens with obedient immigrants is their only hope. Every Democrat who's thought it through for even a minute knows this well. They can't say it in public, though, because obviously it's horrible. So instead, they're trying a new talking point. Illegal immigrants are terrific people, every single one of them, far more noble and law-abiding than you are. How dare you complain about their presence? You must be a bigot. The one problem with this line of argument is that it's vulnerable to facts. But until recently, there really were few reliable numbers on crimes committed by illegal immigrants. And this allowed Democrats to pretend that every person who sneaks across our border goes on to become a heart surgeon or a member of SEAL Team 6. We've got the data now, and it turns out, surprise, surprise, they've been lying to you. In the border state of Arizona, for example, illegal immigrants commit 2.5 times as many murders as American citizens do. They're almost 50% more likely to be in gangs. They commit more armed robbery and more sex crimes against children. Overall, they're about twice as likely to be convicted of crimes of all kinds, non-immigration related. And that's just in one state. In California, an illegal alien named Luis Brasamontes murdered 2 police officers. Brasamontes had been deported from this country multiple times. In each case, he came back, thanks to politicians who have zero interest in keeping people like him out. In court this Tuesday, Brasamontes bragged about his plans to escape from prison and murder more. So legal immigration divides the country. It lowers wages for those who can least afford it, and in some cases, it literally costs Americans their lives. So why are we doing this? Because it's our moral duty. That's what our leaders are telling us. We have to. That's who we are. Just days ago, the Senate's most celebrated moral philosopher, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, spoke for the country's entire ruling class when he explained the rationale for his views on immigration. Diversity is our strength. Now, you've heard that phrase before, obviously. You hear it every day. In effect, it's our new national motto, soon to replace the outdated and, in fact, polar opposite sentiment, e pluribus unum. Diversity is our strength. It'll be in our currency before long, trust me. But what exactly does it mean? You may notice that nobody ever bothers to explain exactly what it means. And more pressingly, is it true? The less we have in common, the stronger we are? Is a marriage stronger when spouses have radically different beliefs? Are you closer to your kids when you share no common points of reference? Do you speak the same language as your best friend? Could you be best friends if you didn't? These are important questions, given that our leaders are radically and permanently changing our country wholly on the basis of their faith that diversity is, in fact, our strength. Maybe we should have talked this through ahead of time. Somehow we didn't. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy tried to start that conversation today, and here's part of what he said.
We did not survive, grow, and become the most powerful civilization in human history because we are focused on our diversity. It is not our differences that makes us stronger. It is our unity despite our diversity. Unity in past, of principles, and of the purpose that brought us out of many unto one.
In other words, diversity isn't our strength. Unity is our strength. Don't the left lie to you. That doesn't mean we have to look alike. Doesn't mean we have to come from the same places. It does mean we have to share common beliefs. Otherwise, we'll hate each other, and the whole enterprise will fall apart. That's true in families, it's true in friendships, and it's true in countries, too. You already knew that because it's obvious. Our leaders spend most of their time denying it. They're lying to us. Kate Gallego is a Phoenix City Council member. She's running for mayor in that city, and she supports the continuation of DACA. She joins us tonight. Okay, Gego, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So trying to think through how legalizing people who are here illegally helps American citizens. And in Arizona, we have some data on this because the state passed, as you know, one of the toughest anti-immigration laws in the country in 2010. And the effects of that have been studied. And here's what they showed. There was a short-term labor shortage, obviously. People here to work, they can't work. There was a labor shortage. But over time, automation made up for it, and wages went up for American workers. Costs, meanwhile, went down. Prison costs went down. Education costs went down dramatically by hundreds of millions of dollars. So given that we know that, why does it help the economy to legalize people here illegally?
Right now, the city of Phoenix is the fastest growing city in the entire country. We added more people in 2016 than on any other city. And we're constrained by our workforce right now. We just had some folks from the home building industry come into the city of Phoenix and say, we could do so much more if we had a larger construction workforce. We could be creating jobs, we could building new affordable homes for people to live in, but we don't have the workforce we need. And they said that the point that they really feel like it's changed was not having enough people through immigration.
Yeah.
We're
a lot of
losing
employers,
out.
I bet they feel that way.
Losing out.
Yeah, a lot of employers make that case, and they mean it. They want, obviously, cheaper labor. I think all employers do. Why wouldn't they? But if that's true, if more illegal immigrants make a place richer, then how many specifically do you think Arizona or Phoenix needs? How many illegals do you need in your city to make it richer? Would more be better? How about 10 million? Would that make it even richer?
Right now, we are desperately concerned about our DACA recipients who are in our city. Arizona has 28,000 DACA recipients who have been great members of our community, who went to our high schools, were educated here. We've been investing in them for years. Now they're ready to give back, and we're worried about their future right now. Our Republican governor has stepped up and said they're an important part of our economy. We want them to stay.
Right. You just said that. I mean, I just want to get to the nub of it, though, because I think it's a big deal. I mean, once you legalize people, they vote, they bring their relatives, it changes a place, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, but we should be clear about the effects, I think you'd agree. So if bringing in more people illegally and making them citizens makes you more prosperous, then why wouldn't you bring in 10 million and become really, really rich? Would that work?
Immigrants have been amazing contributors to our community. If you look at some of the data from Forward.us, Mark Zuckerberg's organization, so many of the entrepreneurs who've built our tech economy came here through immigration. And we in Phoenix are desperate for more people in engineering and computer science. How many big tech companies
were started by people from Central and South America, Latin America?
So right now I'm sitting in Phoenix, Arizona, very close to a company called Fortis, who was started by a gentleman from Panama. It's one of our top engineering companies in this community, and they actually are one of our largest employers of at-risk veterans, which is a wonderful success story.
I bet he's a great guy, and the company's great, but how many big tech companies were started by the immigrants that you're talking about, since you brought it up? How many?
If you look at, we have so many success stories in this community, and some of them have gotten national attention.
Okay, so I just want to be, because it's a big, with respect, I mean, look, I'm not attacking immigrants. I like immigrants, and I'm sure a lot of these people are great people, but people who live here, who are born here, are citizens, have a right to know the effects of this. So how many is the optimum number? If bringing people illegally and giving them citizenship makes you more prosperous, what's the number, the ideal number of people we should give citizenship to?
Our country and our community was built by immigration, and we have so many stories in this community.
So I know stories, but I'm looking for facts, and I think it's fair to ask for facts. So John Lott, who's a researcher, a social scientist, got hold of the conviction numbers, which the government of the state of Arizona has hidden from the population because it's lying to the population about the effects of immigration, as you know. And he found that illegal immigrants in the state of Arizona were more than twice as likely to commit murder and overall far more likely to commit crimes of all kinds. It's not immigration crimes, but violent and property crimes. So given that, those are facts, how can you reassure the residents, the legal residents of Arizona of all backgrounds, that this is good for them? I don't understand.
We in cities throughout our community have seen great success stories when people feel like they can work with the police department and there's trust. So we've had folks who did not have legal immigration status, but were willing to work with our police department and have been very important in helping us, particularly with drug-related crimes.
But do you acknowledge? Do you acknowledge the reality of what I just said? So this study, which got a hold of Arizona state numbers, which I think are legitimate, says that people illegally in Arizona are far more likely to commit serious crime. Do you not believe that? Are you just ignoring it, or what's your response to that?
So I just received the arrest and crime data from the last calendar year, 2017, for the city of Phoenix. And that wasn't what we found in the city of Phoenix. Unfortunately, violent crime was led by people who live here and who were born here.
That's not the question. Were people who were there illegally more likely or less likely to commit serious crimes in the city of Phoenix? Are you really saying they were less likely? I don't think that's what the numbers show.
Our 2017 numbers tell a very different story than the story that researcher is telling you.
So are you saying, just to be totally clear, because we're almost out of time, are you saying that you've seen numbers that in the city of Phoenix, people here illegally were less likely to commit serious crimes than citizens? Is that what you're saying? I just want to get you on record.
We need comprehensive immigration reform, and it will help.
Oh, you're slipping out of the question. I'm asking a very simple question, and you're not giving me a real answer, and I think that tells the whole story. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Democrats apparently realized that cutting off paychecks from military servicemen on behalf of millions of people here illegally might be a hard sell to voters. For months, we've been hearing that the government could shut down if Republicans refuse to continue DACA without any concessions. In November, for example, Congressman Luis Gutierrez bluntly said, we want a clean DREAM Act in return for funding the government. In other words, just give them amnesty. Just a week ago, though, the Washington Post was totally unambiguous on this question. Quote, the thorniest issue, they said, holding up funding agreement, was Democrats' demand that DACA recipients be protected. Everyone knew that. No one denied it. And yet, oddly, with the shutdown imminent, Democrats are abruptly changing their story. The issue they say now is health care somehow. Today, Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi said the real issue is that the Republicans won't permanently extend the CHIP program, that's the federal health insurance. Quote, this isn't about dreamers, she said during a press conference at the Capitol. This is about what isn't there to help meet the health needs of the American people. Does anyone really believe that? We'll answer that. No one believes that because it's not true. Well, America isn't the only country with a major political split over the question of who comes in and under what circumstance. It's not the only country where its leaders baldly lie to its own people about the effects of that immigration. Yesterday, for example, in Sweden, a police station was hit by a grenade attack. It's more common than it has been. Explosive attacks have, well, exploded in the past few years as Sweden has welcomed a massive number of immigrants into its once famously placid society. This has caused a lot of effects, some of them political. We recently spoke to a man called Hanif Bali. He's an Iranian immigrant to Sweden who, maybe unlikely as it is, has become a leader, a celebrated one, in the push for tougher immigration laws there. Watch. What is the problem with Sweden's immigration system now?
So there are many problems. It's very hard to define one, but the biggest problem is the amount of immigrants that are coming in. In the last couple of years, we have taken in about 250,000 asylum seekers, and for comparison, that would be like America taking in about 8 or 9 million asylum seekers. This is people that Sweden provides housing, healthcare, schooling, and all these a lot of these expensive services that the Swedish welfare system gives to people. And this has created, of course, a lot of huge costs in the short run for the Swedish system, but also when we look at long term, what we're seeing now with crime and poverty is effects of having a very lax migration system for 10, 15 years ago. And what we're seeing now with basically ghettos and street gangs, which is a phenomenon that never even heard of in Sweden, and also jihadists traveling abroad, etc. These are problems that are new to Sweden, and Sweden's system is not capable of, it's not capable and it's not designed to handle these problems. for example, in unemployment, I mean, in 2006, about 20% of people unemployed were immigrants and foreign-born. Today, that number is up to 60%. So
you are an immigrant from a Muslim family, and yet you've taken a hard line against Muslim immigration, mass immigration from Muslim countries. What's the response been to you?
If we want to help people, and that is truly what we want to do, you cannot put so much pressure to the system that the system collapses under its own weight. And the response I've been having, because I'm, merely putting this statement out that's saying, look, there's a limit to how many people you can take in, has been to call me basically Uncle Tom, a house nigger. I've been compared to Dr. Mengele, and this is not from random people on the street. These are people who have prominent posts in parties, in the left, in newspapers, and this is, of course, because I don't tell them the wishful thinking that they want to hear.
Yes. Well, we're very familiar with that in this country. You're a brave man, and we wish you luck. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
That man could be the next Prime Minister of Sweden. Nancy Pelosi says the Republican Party wants to foist something repulsive on America. So repulsive, probably not going to describe it on the air tonight. She says she might back a government shutdown in response. Mark Stein here to clear the air. Next question. Stay tuned. Congress is on the brink of a shutdown literally tomorrow. Nancy Pelosi won't admit that, because that would be admitting the Democrats are shutting the government down because Republicans refuse to legalize people here illegally. She's claiming Democrats want to shut the government down because the Republican Party is trying to do something repulsive. Here's her explanation.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy to do, put a cherry on top and call it chocolate sundae. This is nothing.
Ugh. Meanwhile, over at CNN, Chris Cuomo says the Republican Party is guilty of the horrifying sin of vilifying people who snuck into our country and are demanding rights and money. Here he is.
You guys have a pretty intentional effort to make illegal immigrants, as you call them, monsters. You put out this DHS report today that fictionalizes the risk of terror that is represented by people who come into this country illegally. We understand that that's against the law. We understand that it has to stop. But why make them all into the villains?
Mark Stein is an author and columnist and an actual thinker, and he joins us tonight. So, Mark, when people like the guy we just showed put air quotes around the phrase illegal immigrant, what does that mean? Are you not allowed to admit that they're immigrating illegally?
Yeah, I think he doesn't recognize that category. What's interesting is that both he and Nancy Pelosi and others on that side of the aisle are getting ever more explicit in their preference for illegal immigrants, so-called, as he would say, over American citizens. He said, Chris Cuomo went on to say that the real problem is white supremacists in America. They're the real monsters, not these nice, hard-working illegal immigrants. And that may be well and true. I mean, for the purposes of argument, let's just say he's right. It's irrelevant. The white supremacists are American citizens. The illegal immigrants are people who shouldn't be here. And the organizing principle of nation states is that they're organized on behalf of their citizens, whether their citizens are cheerleaders or white supremacists or whatever. You're stuck with them. And then this preference Nancy Pelosi and Chris Cuomo and increasing people have for actually importing a class of citizen that they prefer to the ones they're stuck with is actually very revealing.
But how can you lead a country whose population you despise? I mean, would you be a good parent if you hated your kids? Would you be an effective officer if you didn't care about the safety of your men? I mean, doesn't that kind of prima facie show that you're not ready to lead if you don't love the people you're leading?
No, I mean, you said, what about parents and kids? Every family, I think it was Malcolm Muggeridge who said that friends are God's apology for relatives. In other words, you pick your friends, you're stuck with your relatives. The Democrats are getting very close to saying that foreigners are God's apology for Americans. Nancy Pelosi has explicitly said that we should thank the parents of these so-called dreamers, these DACA people, for bringing them here illegally. And in fact, to go back to what your Swedish guest was saying, you know, whatever the economic benefits, which are minimal and are not evenly distributed, the cultural transformation, which is what's happening in Sweden, other parts of Europe, and is what's happening in Arizona too, that's forever. In Arizona, a majority of the grade school children now are Hispanic. That means Arizona's future is as an Hispanic society. That means, in effect, the border has moved north. And the cultural transformation outweighs any economic benefits that lady was talking about.
It's at the very least bewildering for people who grew up here, and that's real. I don't think you have to be animated by hate or anything to say, you know, maybe I should have some say in how my country evolves. Mark, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
More evidence tonight that the Las Vegas shooter, Stephen Paddock, may not have acted alone. Not a conspiracy theory. There is evidence of that. So tonight, one person fresh off walking the crime scene has news on that investigation. Our continued look at that continues next. Almost 4 months since the Las Vegas shooting, the worst in modern American history, still many mysteries and some new developments in that case. Just 2 days ago, a lawyer for the Las Vegas police indicated new charges could be forthcoming. Odd, since the only suspect is dead. Detectives, though, saying very little. Catherine Lombardo is an attorney representing the victims of Las Vegas. She joins us along with Republican Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, who says he's got concerns about how this is going. First to you, Catherine. What do you know?
Yes, we had court 2 days ago. It was the hearing for the press where they asked the court to release the search warrants, the affidavits, and all of the returns,
right,
which means all of the evidence, right? And so what we heard was quite shocking and quite surprising. Now, you have to remember that Sheriff Lombardo with the Las Vegas Metro Police has told us at his briefings that Stephen Paddock was the lone shooter. He was the only shooter. However, at the hearing, we heard two things. One, that there will be no indictments coming for any murder or shooting. However, they are investigating other charges and crimes. They wouldn't say who. They wouldn't say what. The entire courtroom took a gasp and looked up and went silent for a second. Even the judge reacted, and the judge said something like, okay, without telling me who or what, are you saying to me that there will be other charges forthcoming? And the lawyer for the police said, yes, there are other charges being investigated. The judge pressed him on that, and he said within 60 days. So what the judge did was she asked him for further supplemental briefing to explain to her what that contains, who it is, what it's about. You see, we're asking, and the press is asking for the documents, the evidence to be released, since there is no ongoing criminal investigation.
Well, that would be nice. And answer basic questions such as how is an interior door locked inside the hotel suite? Congressman, you're the only member of Congress I'm aware of who's taken a public position asking questions about this. What are your questions?
Well, I smell a rat like a lot of Americans do. Nothing's adding up. It's been 4 months, as you said. We don't even, the man's dead. They said he's a lone gunman, lone shooter. You can't get the autopsy results. But even more troubling than that, recently I've been made aware of what I believe to be credible evidence or credible information regarding potential terrorist infiltration through the southern border regarding this incident.
Terrorist?
Yes, sir.
Connections? Yes. Okay. So what's the outline of that? What would that?
Well, it could be, well, let's face it, ISIS twice before the attack. ISIS warned the United States that they would attack Las Vegas, I think in June and August. And then after the attack, claimed responsibility 4 times. Meanwhile, the local law enforcement investigative services are telling us there is no terrorist connection, lone gunman. Something's not adding.
Well, that's part of my confusion. Catherine, can you just confirm that this investigation is still being overseen by state and local authorities rather than federal?
That's right. The FBI and the Las Vegas Metro Police Department have been conducting the investigation. We've seen no evidence of a terrorist attack, and I will ask, with all due respect, Congressman, unless you have specific evidence to back that up, it seems a bit irresponsible to make that allegation. So if you do, or make that assertion, if you do have any evidence of that, I'm asking you right now to share it with us and tell us what that is. My clients, the victims, all 22,000 people have been waiting and waiting and waiting.
Got it. Let's let the congressman respond to that.
We've all been waiting. I'm waiting too. Like I said, nothing adds up, but I'm just telling you, I have received what I feel to be and believe to be credible evidence of a possible terrorist nexus, and we're going to have to wait until that situation develops.
So Congressman, hold on. So for 1 second. I'm not taking a position on this either way, but I want to get down a little bit here. If that is your belief, does Congress have a role to play in this?
I don't know that Congress has a role, but I think who does have a role is the National Counterterrorism Center. And if ISIS claims, if ISIS warns about an attack and an attack occurs and claims responsibility after the fact,
right?
It seems to me that at a minimum they should have some portion of the investigation to clearly debunk that claim. And yet it hasn't happened.
Okay, so tomorrow, we're unfortunately out of time, but we will be taking a press conference tomorrow out of Las Vegas by the investigators. Hope we're going to learn more, and I hope we speak to both of you again on this. Thank you both very much. A powerful lobbying group wants to roll back a lot of the Republican Party's recent tax cut for the middle class. We invited them on to discuss their plan. They refused. Of course, we'll discuss it anyway. That's next.